Have you ever looked into someone's eyes for the first time and felt as if your soul already knew theirs? No words were exchanged. There were no awkward introductions, just a strange and powerful calm, as if your heart exhaled and whispered, "You're safe here." It's not luck, not a random cosmic accident. Carl Jung would call it synchronicity, when two souls align, not by chance, but because they're vibrating at the exact same frequency. It's rare, it's intense, and when it happens, nothing else the world seems to matter. Conversations grow deeper, silence feels comfortable. You don't wear masks, you don't need to explain yourself, because this person doesn't just hear your words, they feel your energy. But let me tell you something, most people don't want to hear. Not every deep connection is meant to last. Some people don't come to stay, they come to awaken. They arrive like a storm, powerful, unforgettable, and before you know it, they're gone, leaving behind questions, clarity, and sometimes a crack in your heart that never fully heals. So, how do you know? How do you know if this person is your soulmate or simply a mirror, a reflection of your wounds, your growth, or your incomplete healing? Let's break it down, because the truth is, some connections are your destiny and others are your lesson. And if you don't know the difference, you might cling to a ghost while letting go of your guide. Chapter 1. Synchronicity. The soul's timing is never wrong. What you find in another being is the mirror of your own soul. Carl Jung once asked, "Have you ever met someone and felt something within you shift?" It wasn't attraction in the traditional sense. It wasn't about appearance, status, or charm. It was something deeper. An echo of something you couldn't name, but your soul recognized instantly. Jung called this synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence where two people cross paths not by chance, but by something far deeper. He believed that beneath all our conscious choices lies an invisible thread connecting us through energy, frequency, and vibration. And when that thread aligns, two souls fall into perfect harmony without either of them planning it. Relationships may start with logic, shared interests, timing, or physical chemistry. But the most powerful connections begin in silence. They begin in the energy field, unspoken but undeniable. That's why you can meet 1,000 people and feel nothing, and then meet one person and feel everything. Because this isn't about the surface, it's about resonance. It's as if your soul is a piano, and they walk in and play a key you didn't even know existed. Suddenly, you remember a part of yourself that had been dormant. They awaken something within you, not because they brought it, but because they reflected it. And that's the key. You don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with the version of yourself that comes alive in their presence. Maybe they draw out your softness in a world that's hardened you. Maybe they challenge you in ways that scare you, but help you grow. Maybe they reflect your pain so clearly that you're forced to finally face it. That's the magic of synchronicity. It's not about perfect circumstances. It's about perfect alignment. They arrive when your soul is ready, not when you're fully healed, not when your life is perfect, but when you're broken enough to receive a deeper truth. Chapter 2. You attract what you haven't healed. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. Carl Jung. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever looked back at your relationships and wondered, why do I keep attracting the same kind of pain? Different names, different stories, but somehow the same heartbreak, the same abandonment, the same emotional pattern repeating like a scratched record. That's not fate. That's not bad luck in love. That's your unhealed part making the decisions. Most people don't realize we don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. More specifically, we attract what still needs healing within us. If you carry childhood wounds of feeling not enough, you'll find people who treat you as if you're not enough. If abandonment issues are buried deep, you'll fall for those who always leave. If your self-esteem is built on shaky ground, you'll attract those who constantly test your worth. Not because the world hates you, but because your soul is trying to get your attention. Pain isn't a punishment. It's a teacher. Every broken relationship isn't a curse, it's a classroom. It's showing you where you still bleed, reflecting the parts of you that still whisper, "I'm not healed yet." But most of us don't listen. We blame the person, curse love, shut down emotionally, when in reality, it's not about them. It's about the mirror they held up to us. Because relationships, especially painful ones, are mirrors. They don't create your wounds, they reveal them. They show the fear you buried, the trauma you never processed, the stories you tell yourself when no one's watching. And until you look into that mirror, not with guilt, but honesty, you'll keep attracting the same lessons in different bodies. The people who ignored you reflected your fear of abandonment. Those who made you chase their love revealed your hidden belief that you must earn affection. The emotionally unavailable mirrored your own avoidance of vulnerability. Every person is a message. Every heartbreak is a wake-up call. Here's the hard truth. You can't heal in the same place you were hurt, but you can heal by understanding why you were drawn to that pain in the first place. Chapter 3. Not all soulmates. Some people enter your life like a wildfire. Sudden, intense, unstoppable. They don't call, they don't ask permission, they just appear, and your world is never the same. You weren't looking for them. You weren't even ready, but something about their presence made you feel at home, as if your soul remembered them from a time before time. Everything about it is overwhelming. The connection, the chemistry, the conversations that stretch until 3 a.m., the silence that says more than words ever could. So you start to believe, this must be fate, this must be love, this must be the one. But then they leave, and you're left staring at the empty space they filled so easily, trying to understand how something that felt so right could vanish so fast. You question everything. Was it real? Was it just me? Was I imagining the Bay connection? Let me tell you a truth few are brave enough to face. Not all soulmates are meant to stay. Yes, it was real. Yes, the connection mattered. But that doesn't mean they were meant to stay forever. Some soulmates don't come to stay. They come to awaken. They arrive when your soul is asleep, when you've forgotten your worth, settled for less, buried your truth so deep you don't even recognize your own voice. They come like fire, to burn away your illusions, destroy your false beliefs, break your heart so it can finally open. It hurts because it's supposed to hurt. Growth always does. Chapter 4. Love begins with wholeness, not hunger. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Carl Jung. We live in a world obsessed with finding the one, the perfect person, the missing piece, the soulmate who will complete us. But here's the brutal truth. No one can complete you if you haven't completed yourself. Because love that comes from hunger isn't love. It's desperation. It's dependency. It's an attempt to fill a void that was never meant to be filled by another person. You attract what you are, not what you want. If your soul is full of chaos, confusion, and unresolved wounds, you'll attract people who reflect that chaos back at you. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it's consistent. That's why the broken often fall for the unavailable. Why the insecure chase the distant. Why the lonely settle for less than they deserve. It's not fate, it's frequency. And frequency doesn't lie. Energy doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to your beliefs, your vibration, your self-worth. So if you're walking through life hungry for love, validation, and emotional rescue, you'll attract partners who mirror your hunger, not your wholeness. They won't give you peace, they'll give you intensity. And intensity without stability is a fire that burns everything. You'll think it's passion, but it's pain disguised as love. You'll think it's romance, but it's trauma playing dress-up. Because real love doesn't feel like addiction, it feels like alignment. It begins not when you find someone, but when you become someone. Not someone perfect, but someone whole. Wholeness doesn't mean you never get triggered. It means you don't expect someone else to soothe every wound. It means you've faced your shadows, healed your past, and learned to give yourself the love you once begged for. When you're whole, you stop chasing people who only feed your void. You start attracting those who match your peace. You stop falling for temporary highs and start building with those who bring permanent growth. That's not magic, it's emotional physics. Because when your frequency shifts, your relationships shift. The people who once felt magnetic start to feel chaotic. Those who ignored you no longer attract you, and the souls destined for the healed version of you begin to appear effortlessly. Love finds you when you no longer need it to save you. It finds you when you stop asking, "Who will complete me?" and start declaring, "I am whole, I am worthy, I am already enough." That's when love stops being a transaction and becomes a transformation. Not two broken halves clinging to each other out of fear, but two whole beings choosing each other with strength. Chapter 5. The Illusion of Forever. We grow up with a fantasy, a story, a promise wrapped in fairy tales and wedding vows that love, once found, must last forever. We're told true love never fades, that forever is the goal, that if it ends, it wasn't real to begin with. But here's the truth. Life eventually teaches us all. Not all souls are meant to stay, and that doesn't make the connection any less meaningful. Every soul you meet has a season. Some arrive to teach you how to love, others to teach you how to let go. Some are a mirror of your higher self, others a warning of what you never want to become again. But none of them are a mistake, even the painful ones, even the ones that left you shattered. Even the ones that made you question your worth. They were lessons disguised as love. The real mistake isn't that the relationship ended. It's that we try to cling when it's already expired. We beg, chase, compromise, shrink to fit into a bond our soul has outgrown. And what happens? We suffer, not because they changed, but because we refuse to accept that we did. When your energy evolves, when your frequency rises, some people will naturally fall away. Not because they're bad, not because you failed, but because your soul is no longer aligned with theirs. No amount of effort, persuasion, or nostalgia can force two souls to fit when they've grown in different directions. It's like trying to wear shoes that once fit perfectly, but now hurt with every step. You can force them, but you'll bleed for it. That's what happens when you cling to people who no longer match your vibration. You bleed emotionally, suffer mentally, get stuck spiritually, because love was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a portal to growth, truth, freedom. When the purpose of a soul connection is complete, you feel it. There's a silence, a disconnect, a sense that something no longer fits, even if the memories still feel warm. And that's where courage comes in. The courage to let go, to release the illusion of forever, to honor the love for what it gave you and still walk away when it no longer feeds your soul. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you care more about your growth than your fear of being alone. It means you finally understand you're not losing them, you're finding yourself. Chapter 6. The mirror never lies. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Carl Jung. It's easy to point a finger and say, "They hurt me, they left, they changed." But what if the people who trigger you are actually showing you the parts of yourself you've refused to face? What if the person who shattered you wasn't a villain, but a mirror? Your triggers aren't random. Your patterns aren't meaningless. They're messages. Messages from your subconscious. Messages from your soul. When someone irritates you, disrespects you, or makes you feel small, don't just look at them. Look at what they're reflecting back at you. Every relationship, especially painful ones, is a mirror. It shows where you bleed, where you're still vulnerable, where your healing still has work to do. Think of that person you can't let go of, the one you replay conversations with, overanalyze texts from, cling to the memory of like a wound that won't close. Why? Because the mirror never lies. It shows you the truth you've always been ready to see. Chapter 7. When two whole souls meet, there comes a time, after all the heartbreaks, the toxic cycles, the long nights spent questioning your worth, when something inside you begins to change. You stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop reshaping yourself into forms just to be loved. Instead, you start doing the real work. You look in the mirror and confront the wounds you tried to bury. You untangle the childhood stories that told you love had to be earned. You make space for your shadows instead of running from them. You learn to give yourself the validation you spent years seeking in others. And somewhere along the way, you heal. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to stand on your own. When that happens, something incredible begins to unfold. The right soul arrives, not to fix you, not to complete you, but to meet you exactly where you are. There are no games, no manipulation, no chasing, no anxiety disguised as passion, just resonance, just alignment, just peace. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to shrink to be seen. You don't have to fear their silence, because their presence feels like home. This is the kind of love that doesn't ignite chaos. It calms it. It doesn't leave you questioning. It leaves you feeling safe. And for the first time, love doesn't feel like drowning. It feels like breathing. You laugh more. You rest easier. You trust deeper, not because they're perfect, but because you're whole enough not to collapse if they aren't. You don't need them to save you. You've already saved yourself. You don't need them to fill a void. You've filled it with purpose, healing, and growth. So what happens when two whole souls meet? Magic, but not the kind that blinds, the kind that builds. Not fireworks that fade quickly, but a fire that burns slow, warm, steady, and real. There's no obsession, just a deep recognition, like two travelers finally arriving home after lifetimes of searching. They don't complete each other, because they were never incomplete. They complement each other. Their presence doesn't fix your life. It amplifies the joy you've already created in it. Their love doesn't patch your wounds. It honors the strength you built by healing them. This kind of love is sacred, not because it's dramatic or intense, but because it's honest, effortless, rooted in self-awareness and mutual respect. It's the reward for all the inner work, the prize for finally choosing yourself, the divine alignment that appears after you stop settling for chaos in the name of connection. Final challenge. If you're still in the middle of your healing, if you're still peeling back layers, learning to sit with your pain, keep going. Because when you've done the work, when you've made peace with your past, when you've fallen in love with your own presence, that's when your person will arrive. Not to rescue you, but to rise with you. Carl Jung's challenge, and life's challenge, is this. Stop searching for love. Start searching for yourself. Because the love you crave, the deep, soul-stirring connection you dream of at night, isn't hidden in another person. It's hidden in you. The person you're waiting to find can't find you until you've found yourself. Not just the polished parts, not just the goals, the smiles, the strengths. I'm talking about the parts you've buried, the fears, the guilt, the shame, the wounds. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Whoever looks outside dreams. Whoever looks inside awakens." You've been dreaming. Now it's time to awaken. Look inward. Heal the echoes. Sit with your shadows. Tear down every lie that told you you're unworthy of love unless you prove something. Because here's the truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you've become. So if you want a love that's whole, a connection that's sacred, a relationship that feels like peace, then become whole. Become sacred. Become peace. Do the work. Answer your soul. And the people meant for you won't appear by accident. They'll be drawn into your orbit by the power of the energy you now carry. Not by chance, by alignment. This is your challenge, your journey, your awakening. Are you ready? If this message touched you deeply, if something inside you stirred as you listened, it wasn't an accident. Your soul needed this. It's been whispering for too long. Now it's roaring. This is your sign. This is your mirror. This is your moment. No more excuses. No more waiting for someone to save you. No more chasing what flees from your worth. Now go and do the work. Face the mirror. Heal what hurts. Forgive who broke you, not for them, but for your freedom. Release what no longer fits into your future, and rise as the person your younger self dreamed you'd become. Because true growth isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It's done in silence, in solitude, in self-respect. If you're ready, truly ready, comment below. I am evolving, not just as a statement, but as a declaration to the world, to your pain, to your past. Let the algorithm bring the noise. You bring the truth. Subscribe for more soul-deep truths that don't just inspire, they transform. Because this journey isn't about chasing validation. It's about becoming untouchable, and it begins where it's always begun, within. No dramatic ending, no false promises. Just this. You already have everything you've been searching for.